There's a kind of intelligence no one teaches, no one names, but everyone feels when they're suddenly standing in front of it. It doesn't sparkle, it doesn't brag, it doesn't push its way into the spotlight. It moves quietly, almost invisibly, like a shifting current beneath calm water. You can't always explain why it unsettles you, why it demands your attention without ever raising its voice, but you feel it. And once you become the person who carries that kind of mind, the world stops treating you the way it used to. This isn't the intelligence of classrooms, grades, or compliments. It's not about wit or charm or being the loudest person in the room. This intelligence is something else entirely. Something older, sharper, untamed. It's the intelligence that watches instead of reacts. That understands what people mean before they finish their sentences. That can walk into a room and pick up every unspoken tension like threads, waiting to be pulled. It's the kind of intelligence Machiavelli understood, one that doesn't seek attention, but influence. One that doesn't need to be seen, because it operates beneath the surface where real power lives. If you've ever felt like you weren't softer than others, just more aware, more perceptive, more attuned to what people think they're hiding, then you've already brushed against this kind of mind. And once you learn to sharpen it, once you learn to use it, you'll never go back to being ordinary. This kind of intelligence begins in silence. At first, people think you're simply quiet, reserved, maybe shy. They mistake your stillness for passivity. But what you're really doing is noticing. You're watching the way people talk over each other when they're insecure, the way they overshare when they want approval, the way they laugh too loudly when they want to be liked. You listen to the words they choose and the words they avoid. You watch their hands when they speak, their eyes when they lie, their posture when they want something. You start realizing that people aren't complicated, they just think they're hiding better than they are. The truth is, the world runs on predictable patterns. Everyone is performing. Everyone is trying to protect an ego, hide a fear, prove something, or avoid something. And once you begin seeing through these layers, once you start reading the code underneath all the noise, something inside you shifts. You stop reacting to what people say and start responding to what they mean. You stop getting caught up in emotions and start analyzing them. You stop taking everything personally and start viewing everything as information. That's when people begin to sense something different about you. They can't explain it, but they feel it. Your calm, your distance, your unwillingness to play the same emotional games they're used to. You don't flinch at insults. You don't get rattled by pressure. You don't crumble when someone tries to guilt you or provoke you. Instead, you watch. You file it away. You turn every slight, every mistake, every conflict into data, and people can feel that. They feel your silence like weight pressing on them. You're no longer controlled by your emotions, you're guided by them. You no longer collapse under your feelings, you study them. Your anger becomes a warning, your fear becomes preparation, your sadness becomes insight. Most people drown in their own emotional storms. You sail right through them, because you've detached from the chaos and moved into strategy. And that terrifies people, not because you're cold, but because you're unreadable. The more you observe, the more you begin to see the cracks in everyone's armor. You can sense who's lying before they open their mouth. You can feel insecurity radiating off someone who's pretending to be confident. You can watch a person's behavior and know exactly what they'll do before they do it. You start predicting reactions, anticipating moves, and adjusting your approach before anyone realizes what's happening. You don't need to expose people. You don't need to call them out. You simply stay 5 seconds ahead, 5 steps ahead, waiting for them to reveal themselves. And they always do. Because people are only unpredictable when you're not paying attention. Eventually, you stop trying to be understood. You stop explaining yourself. You stop revealing your intentions. You give people only fragments of your thinking, just enough to satisfy curiosity, never enough to reveal depth. You become a mystery, and people feel that mystery as power. They start wondering what you're thinking, how much you know what you're planning. The less you reveal, the more they project, and projection is leverage. You no longer chase recognition or praise or affection. You no longer need people to validate your choices. You rely on yourself entirely. And that self-reliance becomes a kind of armor nothing can puncture. The person who needs nothing cannot be manipulated by anything. When you stop depending on external validation, you become untouchable in a way that feels almost supernatural to others. These changes don't happen all at once. They build quietly, like a metamorphosis no one notices until it's complete. One day you simply realize you're not who you used to be. You don't react the same way. You don't give away your emotions. You don't let anyone pull you into their chaos. You've become strategic without losing your humanity, detached without becoming numb, present but never exposed. And that's when you begin to apply this intelligence intentionally. You learn to guide conversations without dominating them. You let other people talk because talking exposes motives. You ask questions that seem harmless but uncover what you need to know. You listen for inconsistencies. You let silence do the heavy lifting. And while others think they're leading the discussion, you're steering it from the inside, gathering leverage with every word. You use stillness as pressure. You pause before you speak. You let people sit with their own discomfort. When someone tries to manipulate you, you don't jump to defend yourself. You let them reveal more by trying too hard. Silence becomes your shield, your sword, and your strategy. People expect arguments, resistance, emotional reactions. You give them none, and that absence destabilizes them more than any confrontation ever could. You begin to mirror emotions to redirect them. If someone is angry, you match their intensity just long enough to gain rapport, then shift the tone. If someone is insecure, you soften your presence to disarm them, then redirect their need for validation into a controlled dynamic. If someone is proud, you give a calculated compliment that steers their confidence in the direction you choose. You don't push people, you guide them into walking exactly where you want them to go, believing the choice was theirs. You keep your plans hidden. You never announce what you're going to do. You move quietly, strategically, with timing that benefits you, not your emotions. And once the outcome lands in your favor, you reveal the truth only through results. People realize too late that they never saw the full picture. They never recognized the angles you were working. They thought you were passive until the world shifted around them. But the most powerful battlefield you apply this intelligence to is the one most people fail in: relationships. This is where people surrender their power, where they negotiate their worth, where they reveal their wounds in the hope of being loved. You don't. You listen, you observe, but you don't expose your core. You let others reveal their patterns first. You let them show their standards, their fears, their insecurities. You let them talk until the truth spills out naturally. You don't confront disrespect. You don't demand loyalty. You don't argue your value. If someone shows you they don't take you seriously, you don't fight for position, you vanish. You remove access quietly, cleanly, without drama. And that absence becomes more powerful than any emotional reaction you could show. People who once took your presence for granted begin to feel the weight of its loss. They replay conversations. They question themselves. They realize you were not someone who needed them. You were someone who allowed them close. There's a difference. As you grow into this kind of intelligence, you stop seeking apologies. You stop needing explanations. You stop trying to fix anyone. You simply pay attention. And when someone crosses a line, you step back, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Silence becomes your final verdict. By this point, something undeniable has shifted in you. You've become still without becoming passive, quiet without becoming weak, present without being predictable. You walk into rooms and people glance at you because your energy carries weight, not loudness, not arrogance, but presence, dense, calm, and unreadable. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove anything. You've outgrown the game entirely and started designing your own. You wear masks when required, speak in layers when necessary, and leave no trace of your influence behind. People underestimate you, and that has become your greatest advantage. This is what happens when intelligence stops shining for others and starts sharpening for yourself. When observation turns into prediction, when emotion becomes a tool instead of a master, when power doesn't need to be displayed because it radiates quietly. You don't need people to love you. You don't need them to fear you. You only need them to recognize one truth. You see everything. Silently, carefully, permanently. And once you reach this point, you're not just intelligent. You're dangerous in a way the world has no defense against. If you're ready to keep unlocking this level of power, then the real transformation has only just begun.